The S23 FE uses the same main camera from the pricier S23 and it performs well, but can GCam deliver better photos and videos? Let's find out in this Samsung S23 FE camera test. The free Google Camera Port, or GCam, I'm using for this comparison is from developer Bigkaka, and there's a link to download this port in the video description. I'm also using the international version of the S23 FE with an Exynos processor instead of the Snapdragon 8gen1 found in the US model. Let's compare a variety of images, including selfies and night mode shots, with both the pre-installed stock Samsung camera app and GCam, and then discuss a few notes about using GCam on the S23 FE. To start, here's a bus that's actually the front of a restaurant, and both apps perform well, but I prefer GCam's more saturated, contrasty look, even if it is a little too dark. This backlit building scene also turned out decently on both, but the stock Samsung camera is favoring cooler colors, while GCam is shifting much warmer, which makes the bricks on the building look less true to life, but not a bad image. Here's a test of all three cameras, beginning with the ultra-wide, which works just fine even in GCam. Same situation as the other two shots. GCam is more saturated and warmer than stock cam. Same location with the main wide camera, and GCam cranks the saturation up way too far this time. The 3x telephoto is very usable in daylight, and while I do like GCam better again, it sadly tends to clip the highlights more than the stock camera. I have an enormous sweet tooth, and I much rather eat the wall of candy from GCam than from the stock cam, but Samsung's version does leave you more room to edit with its flatter colors and contrast, plus it doesn't destroy the specular highlights from the shiny candy like GCam. For this Christmas tree shot, Samsung clearly wins. The scene is brighter and the sky outside the windows isn't blown out. So I saw this hawk standing on a car in the parking lot, and I wondered if I'd have time to get a decent close-up shot of this falcon with both camera apps, and I kinda did. This is the 3x telephoto again, and both vulture images look fine, but when you digitally zoom in to the max at 30 times, GCam just could not focus on this bald eagle. Tapping the display didn't help either. It just kept hunting. With this tree clock scene, I wanted to point out something I noticed with the stock app a few times in the skies. It tends to do a lot of post-processing, and it's not always pleasing. This clock, for instance, I like the way the stock app constrains the highlights for the Christmas lights, but then it lightens up areas around the numerals and text on the clock, and it just looks ugly and unnatural. This tall grass plant wasn't shot in portrait mode, but this is another example where GCam's over-the-top HDR colors look really nice. This sad playground shot also plays well into GCam's look. I just wish it was a little brighter. This column-framed sky shot is another great example of Samsung really doing some heavy lifting after you capture the image. The sky was extremely overcast and gray, which GCam kind of captures, but the stock camera found the blue areas and made them super blue. Don't get me wrong, it's a more appealing sky, but it's also not real, so just keep that in mind. You can get a more natural image by turning off Scene Optimizer in the advanced intelligence options, but it's on by default, so that's how I tested the app. Before I get to selfies, videos, and night mode shots, if you're finding this comparison helpful so far, please give it a like, and thank you. Selfies from the main rear camera look much better with GCam. Stock cam over sharpens my lazy neck beard way too much, and its washed out cooler colors just doesn't work well with my skin. Portrait mode brings similar results, with Samsung defaulting to a much blurrier background. The front-facing selfie camera still favors GCam, but the stock app does improve some, and thankfully no strange issues with portrait mode. Night mode is a totally different story though. This bug poster is barely lit, but the stock camera can still turn this into a usable image. GCam cannot. GCam fares better with this fire hydrant, but in terms of brightness and detail, the win still goes to Samsung. Same story with these car shots. The stock camera is able to deliver a lot more image in terms of brightness, color, detail, just everything. For video, stabilization is the real differentiator for the main camera. The stock app is just a lot more usable when you need to move around and film. Both can shoot at up to 8K, but GCam can record in 30 FPS instead of only 24 FPS from the stock app. Selfie video is no contest. Alright, so here is selfie video from the S23 FE stock cam. Alright, here's selfie video again from the S23 FE with GCam, supposedly at 4K. Nope, GCam can't record in 4K from the selfie camera. In fact, it crashed a lot just trying to film anything from the selfie camera. Not to mention that the brighter, more saturated stock app looks better overall. With all that said, GCam can definitely provide a more pleasing image in a number of scenarios. A few things. I shot all of the GCam images in HDR or HD HDR enhanced mode, which does slow the shooting process down compared to the stock app. Plus, I did not use auto white balance from GCam. It tended to push scenes very blue. I also didn't use a config file, just the regular port's APK. Also, GCam compatibility with exynos powered Samsung devices has been rough in the past, so if this port stops working, I would use the link in the description to hunt around for some other ports. And if you think the Samsung S23 FE is the right phone for you, you should check out Wireless Place, since they have Samsung devices as well as phones from Google, OnePlus, Motorola, and more. I've bought a few phones from Wireless Place, and they always ship fast and internationally, have great prices, and carry brands you can't get in carrier stores. Please use my discount code PhoneComp10 when you check out, if you want to support the channel or just want to save a little money. A link to the site is in the description. Thanks for watching. Please leave a comment with any questions you have, and I will answer them perfectly. Just don't ask me to identify bird species.